Do you have a lecture at 1 o'clock? Right. So I was late half an hour. So if I one said yes, other one is said no. So if I take about 15 minutes after 12, is that okay for you? පොඩක් log වෙන්න පරක් වෙච්ච හින්දා right. So one said yes. Okay, right. So thank you very much. So again, a very good morning to all of you. We have the week before the mid-semester examination. I have started this this lesson. So I will give you a brief recap for the things that we have done, and have you all do this example number 3 and 4? Have you all tried this to do? So still students are logging. Can you give the message the lecture is started now, and please log in to the lecture? So because there are only 56 students in this in here today, so can any one of you ask from your batchmate to join for this lecture? As I was late little bit, I think some of them may think that today the lecture is cancelled. Okay. So may ඔයගොල්ලෝගේ මේ කියන්නේ කොහොමද attendance lectures වලට? Right. So we have started this lesson in week before to the mid-semester examination. So in here, actually, you have to do some calculation, right? So we know in a project, they will given some of the activities that they have to do to complete a project, right? So for each of these activities, there can be some predecessors, the activities that need to be completed before starting another activity, right? Those activities we are call it as preceding activity or predecessors, right? So according to this lesson, you will be given some optimistic time, most likely time, as well as the pessimistic time, right? So in the previous lesson, in developing the project network, you will be only given the duration, one particular duration for one activity. But here, they will given you optimistic time, most likely time, as well as the pessimistic time, right? So when they are given 3 times, we cannot use that 3 times when we are drawing the project network, and after getting the activity time, we cannot use this 3 times. Therefore, we have to calculate the weighted average activity time, right? So that's why we are going to calculate the weighted average activity time. So those who are not attend for the previous lecture, that's why I'm recapping these things, right? So after because of having the optimistic, most likely, as well as the pessimistic time, we are going to calculate the weighted average activity time, right? So when you are going to calculate the weighted average activity time, this is the equation that you have to use. In this equation, you can see you are getting the optimistic time, that is denoted as A. And for that, you have to add the most likely time. That most likely time, you have to multiply it by the 4, right? And again, you have to add the pessimistic time, which is denoted as B, right? So in here, we are going to take an average activity time. You can see the word average activity time. We want to get an average. So when we are going to get an average, you can see the denominator is getting as 6, right? So the upper side of this fraction, you can see for the A, it is having 1. For the M, it is 4. And for the B, it is again 1. So as we are going to get an average, you have to divide this whole thing by 6. So it is 1, 4, and 1. That means it is totally it is 6. As we are going to get an average, you have to divide the whole thing as from 6, right? So that is the way this equation is created, right? So by using this equation, you can calculate the weighted average activity time, right? So the next one is, after you are getting like this 3 times for each of these activity, first of all, you have to calculate the weighted average activity time, right? Then after, you can calculate the standard deviation for the activity. For each of these activity, you are required to calculate the standard deviation, right? So in calculating standard deviation for the activity, you have to take the pessimistic time. From the pessimistic time, you have to deduct the optimistic time and divide that thing by 6. Right? So after doing calculating standard deviation for each of these activity, you can calculate the variance for the activity as well. So for this equation, you have to get the power of 2 in order to get the variance. After calculating standard deviation, for that standard deviation, you have to take the power of 2. Right. So for the each of these activity, now we have calculated the standard deviation as well as the variances, right? So actually, when you are getting a question like this, you will be asked you to calculate. You will be asked you to first draw the project network basically using the activity on arrow approach, right? So then after drawing the project network, you are required to put the weighted average activity time, right? Then after, you have to calculate the early start and late finish time for those things, right? After that, you can calculate the standard deviation for the project, right? So when you are going to calculate the standard, firstly, we have calculated the standard deviation for the activity and standard deviation for, variance for the each of these activity, right? So finally, we want to calculate the standard deviation for the project. So when you are going to calculate the standard deviation for the project, according to this example number 1, they are not asking us to draw the project network because they are not given any predecessors activity, or they are just given as the activity, right? Therefore, I ask you to assume that A, C, F, I, J, K are the critical activity, right? So after drawing, if we are getting the question like question to draw the project network, then after, you have to identify the critical activity, right? After identifying the critical activity, you can calculate the standard deviation for the project, right? Standard deviation for the project calculation, you have to get the variances of the critical activity. So according to this example number 1, they are telling that the critical activity are A, C, F, I, J, K, right? Therefore, these variances, you have to get the summation and you have to take the square root of that. As we are get the variances, you have to take the square root to arrive again at the standard deviation for the project, right? Right. So next one that the question can ask is expected time for the project. So when they are asking expected time for the project, you have to take the summation of the expected time of critical activity. So according to this question, they are telling that the critical activities are these, and you have to take the summation of these critical activity of the weighted average activity time, right? So that is the thing we have done for the example number 1. So in example number 2, it is a little bit advanced for the example number 1. So in example number 2, you are required to draw the project network as well, right? So therefore, we have drawn the project network firstly. Then after, we are calculate the weighted average activity time by using the similar equation that we have used for the example number 1. So we have calculated the expected time for the for this example number 2 as well, and by using the variance equation, you can calculate the variance for this example as well, right? So then after drawing this project network, you can fill this. You can fill actually the early start and late finish time, right? So in here, you have to basically use a circle, right? In the circle, above of the circle, you can put the activity number, and this side, the left side of the circle, you can take the early start, and the right side of the circle, you have to take the late finish time. So as I am doing this calculation using the Excel sheet, it is easier for me to draw it as a box, right? That's why I have used as a box. But please remember that if in the examination, if I ask you to draw the activity on arrow approach, you have to draw it in a circle, right? So if I my exam එකේදී ඔයගොල්ලන්ට activity on arrow approach එක use කරලා project network එක අඳින්න කියලා කිව්වම ඔයගොල්ලෝ අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම circle එක ඇඳලා arrow එකේ තමයි පෙන්වන්න ඕනේ activity එක. දැන් මම මෙතනදී Excel එක use කරන හින්දා මට arrow මේ circle අඳින්න ගියාම ටිකක් හරදරයි. හරිද? ඒක හින්දා තමයි මම මේ box එකක් විදියට මේක indicate කරේ. ඒ වුණාට ඔයගොල්ලන්ට exam එකේදී මම activity on arrow approach එක use කරන්න කිව්වම අනිවාර්යෙන්ම ඔයගොල්ලෝ circle එකක් ඇඳලා තමයි ඒක පෙන්වන්න ඕනේ. So please remember that at your exam, I am expecting you to draw a circle if I ask you to draw the activity on arrow approach, right? එක තේරුණා නේද? Hello, can you hear me? Right. So please do remember that, right? Right. So after drawing this project network, you can calculate the early start time. So the early start time is the left side of this a box, and you have to calculate using forward pass calculation. You can calculate the early start time, and then after, by using backward pass calculation, you can calculate the late finish time for this project, right? So after that, we have to find out what is the critical path for this project network, right? When finding out the critical path for the project network, you have to see the activities where the early start time is equal to the late finish time. So the activity which are equal to the early start time and late finish time, you can just color it in another pen. So at your exam, you are only allowed you to use the black pens and the blue pens, right? So if you have drawn this project network by using a blue pen, you can indicate the critical path using a black pen, right? Likewise, you can use another different color, but you are only allowed to use only blue and black. So please remember that as well and indicate the critical part, right? So the expected time of the project. So after identifying the critical path, those activity you can highlight in the table that we have calculated, right? So after adding the weighted average expected time of the critical activity, you can get the expected time for the project, right? Then after you can calculate the standard deviation. So in calculating standard deviation of the project, you have to take all the variances of the critical path activity and get the square root, right? So that is the thing that we have basically done for the example number 1 as well. So in example number 2, I have teach you further more things, right? So the expected time of the project we have calculated as 64, and the standard deviation we have calculated, it is 6. And if they are telling that they are scheduling to complete this project network within 66 days, how much of probability is there to finish off the activity within 66 days, right? Therefore, if they are given like this question for you, you have to calculate the Z value, right? So in calculating Z value, you have to use this equation. From the schedule time, you have to deduct the expected time, and the whole thing you have to divide by the standard deviation of the project. So this equation is, the denominator is standard deviation of the project, right? So after solving this equation, you are getting for this calculation, you are getting Z value as 0.33. So I have given you the Z value table as well. So can you see my Z value table? Is it visible, the Z value table? I think that is, now it is okay, right? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. So after calculating the Z value, so we are getting the Z value as 0.33, right? So after getting the 0.33, you have to see from the Z value table. So I have uploaded this Z value table to the LMS as well. So when you are reading this Z value table, the value that you have taken for the Z value is 0.33. So you have to first start this from the left hand side. So you can see there is a 0.3, right? The first decimal point, you have to read it from the left hand side of this table, and 0.33. So the second decimal place you have to read from the right hand side of this table. Therefore 0.3 here, 0.3 here, and for that 0.33 means this is the value, right? The value is 0.6293, right? So did you get how to read the Z value table? What is the step that you have to use when you are reading the Z value table, right? So the value is 0.6293. So that means if we want to make it as a percentage, it is 62.93%, right? So that means the meaning of this 62.93 means there is a probability of 62.93 to complete the project within the 66 days, right? So likewise, if the question is given the schedule time as 62 days, again you have to calculate the Z value first. So after calculating Z value, it is getting as minus 0.33. So if you are getting a minus 0.33, this the first table is indicating the positive value. the positive Z value. So the negative Z values are indicating in the second table. So we have now taken the negative 0.33. So the negative 0.33 means, so negative 0.33. Negative 0.3 is here, and again 3 means this is the value, 0.3707. 0.3707. That means there is a probability of completing this project within the scheduled time of 62 days. The probability is 37.07. Right? So that is the one part of the question that the examination, in your examination you can get. Right? So the other side of this also is they can give you, I can actually give you the probability. So if I give you the probability of completing this project is 95%. So if I am giving that probability percentage, I am asking how much of scheduled time you are required to complete this project. So the completely opposite side of the calculation that we have done previously, right? So if they are given the probability as 95%, you have to see this 95% using the Z value table, right? So the Z value table, from Z value table, you have to see where is the place where the 95% is, right? So the 95% is, where is the place where the 95% is? Can you tell me the answer for this? Where is the place the 95% by using the Z value table? So I think those who have participated for the last week, before the mid-semester examination, you can remember. So can you tell me what is the value, what is the Z value that you are getting for the 95% percentage? As you are silent, can't you remember? 1.645. Right. We will see whether the answer is right, right? Right. The two have answered. So if they are given us the probability, if they are given us the probability as 95%, so the 95% you have to see from the Z value table, right? So the 95% of this Z value table, in Z value table, they are not in exactly as 95%. Therefore, you have to see where is the place closer to the 95%. Right. So in here, the table, you can see the closer for the 95% is here. In here, 0.9495 and 0.9505. So exactly there is no any place which is equal to the 95%. Therefore, you have to take the average of these 2 points. So the 2 points are 1.64 as well as 1.65. As there is no any exact value for the 95%, you have to take the average between these two values. That means 1.64 plus 1.65. You have to, as we are getting average, you have to deduct that thing by the 2. That means the average is 1.645. So those who have answered are very good. They have answered it correctly. Right? So the value is 1.645. So that value means that value we are getting for the Z value. So in this equation, the value we have taken 1.64 is equal to the Z value. And we do not know about the total schedule time. But we know what is the total expected time that will take to complete this project. So that is 64 days to complete. And we know the standard deviation for the project as well. It is 6. So we don't know only the total schedule time in this equation. So you have to solve this equation. That means 1.645. You have to multiply this standard deviation of 6 from this, and you have to add the total expected time of 64 to arrive at the total schedule time. So after solving this equation, you are getting the total schedule time as 73.87. So as we are dealing with the time, after getting the 2 decimal point answer, you can say that approximately it is 74 days. As if we are assuming that these are days, we can tell that approximately it is 74 days. But at the examination, please remember that you have to put it this answer for the first 2 decimal places, and then after you can say that approximately it is 74, right? දැන් එක්සෑම් එකේදී මම එක්ස්පෙක්ට් කරනවා ඔයගොල්ලෝ මේ ඉක්වේෂන් එක සෝල්ව් කරලා value එක අරගෙන value එක 2 decimal places වලට ලියන්න. ඊට පස්සේ 2 decimal places වලට ලියලා ඊට පස්සේ approximately දැන් මෙතන 73.87 තියෙනවා කියන්නේ අපිට කියන්න පුළුවන් 74 days කියලා. හරිද? ඒ විදිහට මම එක්ස්පෙක්ට් කරනවා එක්සෑම් එකට. හරිද? Right. So that is for the 95% probability. If the probability is 95%, the expected or the scheduled time to complete this project that might take 74 days, right? Right. So those are the we can do the calculation for the 99% as well. So those are the calculation we have done in the last week, right? So have you all recapped those things? Is there anyone who did not participate for the last lecture? Did you get what are the things that we have done? So I have already uploaded the recordings to the LMS. So I think you can see the recording from the LMS as well, right? Right, okay. So have you done the example number 3 and 4? At least have you attempt to do the example number 3 and 4? I have given you the example number 3 as well as 4. So have you attempt to do this example number 3 and 4? Yes, one said yes. So Kavindi, can you tell me what are the figures that you have taken for this question? So only Kavindi try to do this example number 3 and 4. That is not good. කවුරුත් කරේ නැද්ද? කවින්දි විතරද මේ try කියන්නේ attempt එකක්වත් මේව කරේ? So as most of you are not responding for me, I assume that you did not even try to do this example number 3 and 4. Yeah, Kavindi said that it is little bit difficult. Can you explain it? Right. So I hope that actually you have at least attempt to do those example, because at the end of this lecture last week, I have asked you to try those things, right? Unable to draw a network, right? So you are unable to draw the network, right? So So I will do this example number 3 and 4 with you. So please take a piece of paper and please work with me, right? So if you are doing the example and if you are practicing those things with me, you will be very much easier for you to grab those things, and you can actually do those things easily, right? So I will do this calculation with you. So please make sure to do it you by yourself as well, right? So in the example number 3, you can see they are given the activity, right? They have given the activity as well as they are given the predecessors as well. And they are given the optimistic, most probable as well as pessimistic time. So what is the optimistic time means? The denominator that we are going to use for the optimistic time in this calculation. What is that? Please respond. Right. A. So for the optimistic time, we call it as A, right? So that is A, and most probable means the denominator, the figures that we are using is M, and for the pessimistic, we are using the B, right? So instead of given you at the exam, I can given you those things as optimistic, most probable, and pessimistic. Therefore, you should be able to identify those things as well, right? exam එකේදී most probable, optimistic, pessimistic කියලා දෙන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට you should be able to identify what are the denominators that we are using instead of this, right? Right. So this example I am doing with you. So please do with me, right? And in this example, they are given the activity times or the days, as well as they are asking to draw the activity on arrow. So in activity on arrow approach, you have to basically use the circle. After drawing the circle, you have to use the arrow. But as I am using the Excel sheet, I will draw it as a box, right? But when you are asking to draw those things using activity on arrow approach, please make sure to draw it as a circle. Please remember that. දැන් මේ question එකේ ඒගොල්ලෝ කියන්නේ අපිට activity on arrow approach එක use කරන්න කියලා. එතකොට activity on arrow approach එකේදී මම ඔයගොල්ලන්ට කියලා දුන්නා. එතනදී අපි circle එකක් ඇඳලා තමයි node එක represent කරන්නේ. node එකෙන් ඊට පස්සේ arrows අඳිනවා. දැන් මම Excel එක යොදා ගන්න හින්දා මට lazy මෙතනදී box එකක් විදියට යොදා ගන්න එක node එක circle එකක් වෙනවට. ඒක හින්දා තමයි මම මෙතන box එකක් යොදාගන්නේ. හැබැයි exam එකේදී මම ඔයගොල්ලෝගේ activity on arrow approach එකෙන් අඳින්න කියලා කිව්වම ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඒකට මොකද්ද මේ box එකක් ඇඳලා තිබ්බොත් මට marks දෙන්න බෑ. So ඒකින්ද ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඒක මතක තියාගන්න අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම activity on arrow approach එකේදී ඔයගොල්ලන්ට circle එක අඳින්නම ඕනේ කියලා, right? So please do remember those things that I am explaining for you. So if you have drawn a box in the activity on arrow approach, I cannot give you marks for the examination, right? As I am using the Excel sheet, I am draw this node from using a box, but at your examination and when you are working for them, ඔයා මේක අඳිනවනේ මාත් එක්ක. එතකොට මම මේකට boxes යොදාගත්තට ඔයා circle එකකින් ඒක පෙන්නන්න, right? ඔයගොල්ලෝ මාත් එක්ක මේක කරනව නේද දැන්? Right. Okay, so we will firstly calculate the, after getting like this example for you, you have to firstly calculate the expected time, right? So in calculating the expected time, as we are given the tree activity time, you have to use this equation, right? So this equation is I will work using the Excel. First, you have to take the optimistic time A. For that, you have to take the most probable time, and that most probable time need to be multiplied by 4, and again at the pessimistic time, right? Again at the pessimistic time, as we are using an average time, you have to divide the whole thing by 6. So that is the expected time for the activity A is 18. So likewise, you have to do for each of these activity. So I have just drag and drop the values. As I am using the Excel sheet, it is easier for me, but at your exam, you have to do those calculation manually, right? And please see that those values are taken for you as well, right? Quickly see that as well, right? So after calculating the weighted average expected time for each of these activity, you can calculate the variance for the each of these activity as well. So in calculating variances, this is the equation that you are getting for the standard deviation. So firstly, I will put it as standard deviation. So in standard deviation calculation, you have to use this equation. So in this equation, you have to get the B. From B, you have to deduct A and divide the whole thing by 6. So for B, it is 36. From that 36, you have to deduct A, and the whole thing need to be divided it by the 6 in calculating standard deviation, right? And for the after calculating standard deviation, you can easily calculate the variance. So for the standard deviation, you can take the power of 2. Then after you can calculate the variances. So see whether you are getting the same answer as I am getting here, right? So quickly see and tell me whether you are getting the same answer as me. Do you want more time? So we have now calculate the expected time of the project. So we have calculated that as well. So we have now done that part, right? And calculate the standard deviation of the project. So calculating standard deviation of the project, firstly, you have to, after calculating expected time of the project, you can draw the activity on arrow approach, right? By using the activity on arrow approach, you have to firstly draw the project network. So did you all calculate these figures, the total expected time, standard deviation, variance? Do you want more time for that? As I am doing using the Excel, so I can just click one and get the answer. I know you want more time. So I will wait for 1 or 2 minutes. So shall I continue drawing the activity on arrow approach? Please respond me. So I cannot see you know. So what is the status that you are in? I cannot predict by seeing the computer. That's why I am asking. One set finish. What about others? So when you, Madhushi, when you are finished, please let me know. So do you, have you all get the same answers as I taken for this Excel sheet? Puni said yes, Kavindi said yes, Diane said yes. Right. So most of you have taken the same answers as I take, right? So So now you can draw the activity on arrow approach, right? So in activity on arrow approach, please remember you have to draw the circle, right? So you can see the activity A, there is no any predecessors, right? For the activity A, there is no any predecessors means you can just start, right? So please draw a circle instead of this box, right? For the activity A, there is no any predecessors, therefore we can just start, right? Then after, sorry, for here you cannot put the A here. Why? It is activity on arrow approach. So therefore you cannot put values inside the circle. So I am drawing the box instead of drawing a circle because it is easier for me when I am doing this calculation using Excel, right? Therefore, please do not put activity name inside the circle, right? So for start the activity A, there is no any predecessors. So in activity on arrow approach, you are asking to use the arrows, right? So you are asking to use the arrow. So in inside the above of the arrow, you can put it as A. So this A, this arrow is used for the A activity, right? And this A activity, you can see that the expected time for the A activity is how much? It is 18. It is 18. So for the A activity, it needs 18 duration to complete, right? And for the B activity also, there is no any predecessors. That means you can use another arrow to indicate the B activity, right? So for B activity, so activity on arrow approach, you have to use the arrow to indicate an activity. Therefore, I have put it here as B. For the B activity, you can see that they are needing the weighted average expected time is 6. Therefore, for the activity B, you need 6 days, right? So we have now completed up to activity A and B. We have completed activity A as well as B. Right. So nextly, I am going for the activity C. For the activity C, you can see there is a predecessor. For the activity C, there is a predecessor and the predecessor is A. That means after completing A activity, you can start to do the C activity. After completing A activity, you can start to do the C activity. So the completion of A activity is here. So after completing A activity, you can start to do the C activity. Right. So the completion of A activity is here. So after completing A activity, you can start to do the C activity, right? So the C activity is here now. So this is indicating the C activity. For the C activity, the expected time, how much of expected time needed for the C activity? You have to take the average value. It is 9. Right. So we have now completed the C activity as well. The next one is D activity. For the D activity also, A activity is a predecessor. Therefore, after completing A activity, the completion of A activity is here. Then after you have to draw a circle here. Right. So after completing A activity, you can start to do the D activity as well. That means this arrow should come from here as well. Right, so this is for the D activity. This is for the D activity. And for the D activity, how much of average time needed? 15 average time needed. So did you all, are you all doing with me? If you have any question when drawing this project network, please raise those questions and ask, right? Up to here, do you have any questions? So we have now completed up to the D activity. Right. Thank you. So we have now completed up to the D activity. And for the E activity also, the predecessor is A. That means we have to start that E activity from here as well, right? So this is for the E activity. And the E activity is consuming, this is for the E activity. And E activity is required, expected time is 9. Expected time is 9. Right, so we have now completed up to the E activity. So next one is F activity. For F activity, the predecessor is C. So the predecessor is C for the F activity. So the completion of C activity is here. Therefore, after completing C activity, you can start to do the F activity. Therefore, you can start that from the F activity. F activity is here. F activity, and F activity average time is 6. Please make sure to make me correct if I put the wrong figures, right? So we have now completed up to the F activity, right? For the G activity, the predecessor is D. That means the completion of D activities after drawing a circle, the completion is here. Right, so after completing D activity, you can start to do what? You can start to do G activity. For the G activity, what is the average time? It is 9. And the G activity is also completed. For the H activity, B and E. B as well as E. After completing B and E both activities, you can start to do the what? You can start to do the H activity. So after completing E as well as B means you can now draw a circle here. After completing B and E, you can start to do the H activity. You can start to do the H activity. And for that H activity, the expected time is 12. Right? So we have now completed up to H activity. So after completing H activity, you can start to do the I activity. So after completing H activity means this is the completion part of the H activity, right? This is the place where the H activity is completed. So after completing H activity, you can start to do the I activity. When drawing the arrows, please make sure to have the arrows connected to the circle, right? දැන් අපි මේ arrows අඳිනකොට අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම මේ circles දෙකම connect වෙලා තියෙන්න ඕන. So after completing H activity, you can start to do the I activity. This is for the I activity. So I activity, how many days required as an average time? It is 6. So you can see for the J activity, F, G, and I. F, G, and I. All these three are predecessors for the J activity, right? That means all these three activities need to be connected, right? F, I should also be connected here. I should also be get connected. So after completing F, G, and I, you can start to do the J activity, right? So after completing F, G, and I, you can start to do the J activity. So this is for the J activity. And the J activity is wanting to complete that J activity, the average time needed is 6, right? So this is the completion of J activity. After drawing a circle, you can indicate that. So this is the complete project network. So have you all finished this? Have you all finished this? Okay. So we have now finished off drawing the activity on arrow approach as well. We have now completed that part as well. Right. So nextly, you have to calculate the early start and late finish time. So please help me to do this calculation. So the early start time for this first circle is 0. For that, you are adding 18. So there is only one arrow. So what is the value in here should be? Please quickly respond. In here, what is the value? As we are doing a forward pass calculation, very good, Diane. It is 18, right? So it should be 18. For the 0, you have to add this 18. That means it is 18. As we are doing the forward pass calculation, you have to take, if there are 2 more arrows are coming in the forward pass calculation, you have to choose the highest value. Therefore, please be careful that as well. So when you are going for the this activity, this node, what is the value? For the 18, you have to add 9. That means it is 27. Right? From 18, you have to add 15. So after adding 15, how much value you are getting? 33. Right. Very good. So you are getting here the 33. And for here, you can see there are 2 arrows are coming. For the 18, you have to add 9. That means it is 27. And for the 0, you have to add 6. That is 6. So as we are doing the forward pass calculation, you have to choose the highest value, right? So what is the value you are going to choose here? It should be 27. Very good, those who are responding for me, because you are actually doing this example. So I am happy. Right. Thank you. So for this, for here, after getting 27, you have to add 12. After adding 12 for the 27, that is 39. Right. Thank you. 39. So where is the place I am? 39, right? So in this node, in this circle, you can see there are 3 arrows are coming, right? So what is the value you are going to get for this? 45. So after adding 27 into 6, that means 33. 33 plus 9 means 39. And for the 39, you have to add 6, that is 45, right? So among these three value, you have to choose the highest value. The highest value is 45, right? So this 45 is coming here. So those who have answered are very good because you have given me the right answer, right? For this 45, you have to add 6 here. That means it is 51. Right, so we have now done the forward pass calculation. Now we are going to do the backward pass calculation. So at the end of this value, you have to put that value for the late finish time as well, that is 51. And in backward pass calculation, you have to deduct the values, duration, right? So from 51, you have to deduct 6, that means it is 45. So if anyone do not understand this thing, please tell me. So I will explain it again, right? So now we are doing the backward pass calculation. So after coming here, 45, you have to deduct 6. So after deducting 6, what is the value? It is 39 here. So after coming here 39, you have to again deduct 12. So 39 deducting 12 means what is the value? From 39, you have to deduct 12 means it should be 27 here. And from the 45, you have to deduct 9. That is 45 deducting 9 here is 36. Very good. So here is 36. From the 45, you have to deduct 6. That is what? It is 39. Very good. So it is 39. Very good. After coming here, you can see for this node, this circle, you are having 3 arrows. So as we are doing the backward pass calculation, you have to choose the lowest value. So one said, Diane and Ishara said it should be 18. So we will see what is the value coming, right? From 27, you have to deduct 9 means it is 18. 18 for this arrow, and from 36 you have to deduct 15, it is 21, right? From 39 deducting 9 means 30, right? So by seeing these three values, you have to take the lowest value. So the lowest value is 18 here. So the lowest value is 18. So I have taken this 18. So the students who are replied for me, so you are right. So thank you, and actually I am happy. So after 18, come in here. For the first node as well, there is a 2 arrows. Therefore, in here also you have to take the lowest value. So from 18 deducting 18 should be 0 here. And from 27 deducting 6 means it is 20. 27 deducting 6 means it is 21. So we have to choose the lowest value, that is 0. Right. So after calculating early start and late finish time, now you can see what is the critical path. So in the critical path, sorry, for the critical path, we will see the critical path, right? So the one has answered. So thank you very much. So in the critical path, the activity early start and the late finish time need to be equal. So in here, it is equal. And for here, A is a critical, right? So I am highlighting those arrows in red. So A is critical because these values are similar. And this is not, the values are not similar. These values are also not similar. And again, the E arrow is having the similar value. Therefore, A, E, and H. H is also having the similar value. Therefore, H is also a critical activity, and I is also a critical activity. I and J. So the critical path is what? A, E, H, I, J. A, E, H, I, J are the critical path. So after identifying critical path, you should highlight those things. A, E, H, I, J. So those who have answered and replied are right. So after identifying critical path, better to highlight those critical path, right? So the A activities, A is also a critical activity. So I have highlighted those. A and then E. E is also a critical activity, and H is also a critical activity. So in the examination as well, it is better to highlight those things. So then it would be easier for you to calculate. And I and J are critical. I and J are also critical. Right, so we have now calculate the expected time, and we have drawn the activity on arrow approach and calculate the standard deviation. Now you can calculate the standard deviation for the project. You have to take what? You have to use this equation, right? So the answer is no, Huda, there is no any two critical path. Why you are saying that? As this B can get as a critical path, why ඔයා මේ B එකනොත් යන්න පුළුවන් හින්දාද critical path දෙකක් තියෙනවද කියලා අහන්නේ. එහෙම වෙන්නේ නැතිනේ. දැන් ඔයා critical path එක calculate කරාට පස්සේ ඔයා මේ duration හල් කරලා බලන්න longest duration එක එනවද කියලා. දැන් ඔයා A එක ගත්ත මෙතන 18. So you have to get the 18 plus E 9. And H is having 12 and I is having 6 and J is having 6, right? So after adding the values that we have identified critical path, the duration is coming as 51. So can you remember, Puta, I have told you when you are calculating critical path, you have to see what are the paths, what are the longest path. Critical path means the longest duration time that you are having. So if you take this path, B, H, I, J, the value is lesser than the 51. So 6 plus 12 plus 6 plus 6. So the value is 30. දැන් මම critical path එක identify කරනකොට මම ඔයගොල්ලන්ට කිව්වා හැම path එකක්ම යන්න පුළුවන් විදිහට බලලා ඒකෙන් longest duration එක ගත්තත් හරිය කියලා. හරිද? දැන් මේ කෙනෙක් අහන්නේ මේ B H I J critical path එක වෙනවද කියලා තමයි අහන්නේ. දැන් ඔයා මේ B H I J වල durations ටික එකතු කරාම පුතේ එන්නේ 30යි. හැබැයි අපි මේ path එක ගත්තම ඒකේ duration එක තමයි longest duration එක වෙන්නේ 51. So according to this example, there is only a one critical path. The critical path means the longest duration, the path which is having a longest duration, right? So Hasini, did I answer your question? Hasini, I am asking from you. Right. So you are clear about that, right? So then මෙහෙම critical path එක මම identify කරනකොට මම කිව්වා හැම path එකකම තියෙන durations වල calculation එක අරගෙන longest එක ගන්න. නැත්තම් slack time එක 0 වෙන එක critical slack time ඔක්කොම 0 වෙන path එක ඔයා මේ combine කරත් critical path එක ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒකින්ද longest duration එක යන path එක තමයි පුතේ මේ path එක. ඒකින්ද මේ example එකට අනුව එක critical path එකක් විතරයි තියෙන්නේ. Right? B to E can't be a dummy activity B to E. In B to E, so B activity is here. The activity is B here, right? So after starting the B activity, you are draw the arrow, right? So then after you are starting, after completing A activity, you are starting the E activity. So after completing both B and E, after completing both E and E, you can indicate by drawing a one circle. There is no any necessity to draw a dummy activity, right? If there is more than one activity, so there are some incidents that you have to draw a dummy activity, but in here for the B and E, you are not required to draw a dummy activity, right? So did you get the answer for your question? For that, the name is not mentioned, right? Right. So you have to now calculate what? Standard deviation of the project. So we have now identified the critical path, right? After identifying critical path, after highlighting those critical path activity, you can calculate the standard deviation of the project. So the standard deviation of the project, what? You have to take the variances of each of these activity, get the summation and get the square root, right? So I will see the answer. The one has answered. So you have to get the square root of the, after getting the summation here. Please remember that you are getting only the critical path activity, right? The answer is 4.94. If we are taking for the 2 decimal places, it is 4.95. Right. Those who have answered, you have answered correctly. Please make sure to round it up, right? So I have taken for the 3, if I take for the 3 decimal places, it is 4.949, right? So if you take for the 3 decimal places, it is 4.949. Therefore, please round it out for the 2 decimal places. It is 4.95. Right? Answer එක ගත්තු අය decimal places දෙකකට round up කරන්න. Right? So we have calculated the standard deviation as well now. We have completed that part as well. So these are the completed parts up to now. And then calculate the probability of the project 55 days and 54 days, 44 days, 45 days. So can you tell me the answer? Do I need to calculate those things? So firstly, you have to calculate what? You have to calculate the Z value. So they have given what? They have given the schedule time. The schedule time for the first one is 55 days. For the 55 days, you have, from the 55 days, you have to deduct what? The expected time. The expected time is 51. After deducting 51 from 55, you have to divide that by the standard deviation of the project. The standard deviation of the project is 4.95, right? So we are just calculate the what? Z value. So the Z value is 0.8 as I am taking for the 2 decimal. It is 0.81. And that 0.81 you have to see from this table. 0.8 here, 81 means here 0.81, 0.7910, 0.7910. That means the value is what? The percentage is 0.7910. That means 79.10% is there. So there is a probability of completing the project within 55 days. The probability is 79.10%. So have you all get this answer? This answer? This is for the 55 days. So now I am going to calculate for the 45 days as well. So if you are getting the 45 days, පුතේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ answer එක ගත්තද 79.10 කියලා? No. ඒක පැහැදිලි නැද්ද? Right. So in the question number 4, they are asking calculate the probability of the project 55 days. Is the probability they are given the 55 days as the total schedule time. They are giving us the total schedule time for the project, right? So this value is given. They are given that within 55 days they want to complete this project. It is the schedule time. So the expected time of the project, we know how much. The expected time of the project is, you have to take the you have to take what? You have to take the summation of the average expected value. So the average expected value means you have to take the summation of the critical path activity, right? So the critical path activity summation or the expected time TE means we are now going to calculate the TE, right? So in TE you have to take the average time of the critical path activity. We have highlighted the critical path activity. Therefore, you have to take the summation here, right? So after getting the summation, you can see the value is 51, right? So that is for the TE. That is for the TE, right? And they are given as the TS. The schedule time is 55. Therefore, you have to, you know the standard deviation of the project as well. This is the standard deviation of the project. This value is for the standard deviation of the project, right? This is for the standard deviation of the project. This is the standard deviation of the project, right? So you are you know the standard deviation of the project as well as the expected time and the schedule time. So you have to just solve this equation and get the Z value. Hello. So after therefore the schedule time is what? The schedule time is 55 days. From the 55 days, you have to deduct the expected time, that is 51. And the whole thing you have to divide that by the standard deviation. It is 4.95, right? So after solving this equation, you are getting the Z value as 0.81. Right? After getting the Z value, you have to see it from the Z value table, right? 0.81 means it is a positive value. Therefore, you have to see it from the positive value, Z value. So 0.81. 0.8 here, 0.81 means this, right? 0.81. That is 0.7910. 0.7910. So as they are asking a probability, it is better to make it as a percentage. That's why I have make it as 79.10%. So did you get the thing? The name is not there. Can you explain it again? The one who has asked me to explain it again. Did you get right? So now try to do it for the 45 days as well. And tell me the answer for the 45 days. So the first one, Diane said it is 11.31, right? So the first thing that you have to do is calculating the Z value. So they are given us what? They are given the total schedule time is 45 days, right? From the 45 days, you have to deduct the expected time. It is 51 days. The expected time is 51 and divide the whole thing by the standard deviation of the project. It is 4.95. And we are getting the Z value as I will take only for the 2 decimal. The Z value is minus 1.21. So you have to see it from the negative value table. Minus 1.21 minus 1.2. 1.21 minus 1.2. Minus 1.21 minus 1.21 means this, right? 0.1131. 0.1131. So better to make it as percentage, that is 11.31%. Right. The answer is 11.31. So the Diane and Madhushi has answered me correctly. So I hope others also calculate that. So we have completed up to this part, right? So the next one is the completely opposite side. For this calculation, they can give the probability. In the first calculation, we are calculate the probability of completing the project if they are given the total schedule time for us. And now they are given the probability, the 92%, and they are asking the schedule time from now, right? So if they are given the probability as 92%, firstly, you have to say where is the place the 92% is. Firstly, we want to see the Z value, right? So where is the place where the 92% is? 92% is exactly not there, right? 92% is exactly not there in the Z value table, but it is in the middle of the 1.40 and 1.41, right? 1.40 and 1.41, the middle of these two, right? Therefore, you have to take the average. 1.40 and 1.41. If you are taking the average means, so you have to take the average 1.40, 1.40 and 1.41. As there is no exactly a one place, you have to take the average, right? So please give me a 1 second. I am getting a call. So try to do this calculation and get the answer and tell me. Extremely sorry for that. I get a call. So what is the value? So we have now find out the Z value. It is 1.405. So the Z value we know now. This figure is we know. And the standard deviation is also we know. It is 4.95. And the expected time also we know it is 51. So you have to take the total schedule time now. So from the Z value, actually from the Z value, it is 1.405 and it should be multiplied by what? It should be multiplied by the standard deviation of the project. It is 4.95 and after that you have to add the total expected time. It is 51. So you are getting the total schedule time as 57.95. I will take it for the 2 decimal places and then after you can tell that approximately what, how much value, approximately you can tell that as approximately it is 58 days. So did you all get this answer? Right. Okay, thank you very much. You have done the calculation. So well done. Right. So those are the calculations that we have to do for this example. Right. So have you all finished this example now? So can you tell me, do you have a lecture at 1 p.m. or not? So if you are not having a lecture for the 1 p.m., I can take another half an hour and complete the example number 4 as well. So can you quickly tell me, shall I start the example number 4 and finish it off? Because I have to cover the syllabus within the rest of this week. Otherwise, I will have to give this example number 4 for you as an homework. So I do not have any time to discuss this example number 4. So what is the suggestion from your side? Shall we continue? Huh? Why don't you reply? First tell me, do you have a lecture at 1 o'clock or not? Are you tired? Can't you hear me? Do you have lectures at 1? No. So as I take 1.5 hour to start this lecture, is it okay for you to complete the example number 4? මම දැන් පැය භාගයක් මට පරක්කු වුණානේ අර ඉෂුව එක හින්දා ලොග් වෙන්න. මම තව පැය භාගයක් කරන් example number 4 එක discuss කරාට කමක් නැද්ද කියලා මම අහන්නේ. Okay, one said okay. Only one. So please raise hand if you are okay. You can raise your hand, no? So in the participation list, you can raise hand. So please raise hand if you are okay to discuss example number 4. Only 2 or 3. Please quickly. Half of the class is okay, no? Others are leaving the class, okay? Right. So those who are willing to do the question number 4, we will do it, right? So thank you very much for responding. Right, we will go for the example number 4 quickly and finish it off, right? Right. In here, you can see there is a additional thing to fill. Early start, early finish, late finish, and late start. So this, like this question, I can give you for the exam, right? So the whole thing is covered in this example number 4, right? So as the first step, as the first step, what is the thing that you have to do? First, you have to calculate the weighted average expected time. So I will calculate the weighted average expected time. You have to take this for the A activity. You have to take the A 2 it is, and it should be multiply the 4. Uh, sorry, it should be multiplied by the 4 and again add uh, 3, and the whole thing you have to divide it by the 6, right? So did you get the expected time as 4 for the activity A? Hmm? Right, right. So likewise, you have to calculate the weighted average expected time for all of these activities, right? So now I have completed this part, and I will give you few minutes to complete this, right? So I have completed this part. So please mention that when you are done with the total expected time calculation. Right. Then after you can calculate the standard deviation. In calculating standard deviation, this is the equation that you have to use. From B, you have to deduct A and divide the whole thing by 6. Right? Sorry. From B, you have to deduct the A activity and divide the whole thing by 6. Right? So that is the standard deviation for the activity A. And these are the values that you are going to get for the standard deviation, right? After calculating the standard deviation, you can calculate the variance. You have to get the power of 2 of the standard deviation to calculate the variance, right? For this value, you have to take the power of 2 to get the variance, right? So I have now calculate this as well. So I am not taking much more time to calculate those things because I am doing through the Excel sheet. But I can understand you are taking some time when you are calculating using calculators, right? Uh, but මට තේරෙනවා Excel එකේ හින්දා එක ෆෝමියුලා එකක් ගහලා ඊට පස්සේ මම drag and drop කරන හින්දා මම ආන්සර් එක ඉක්මනින් ගන්නවා. හැබැයි කැල්කියුලේටර් එකෙන් හදනකොට ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ටිකක් වෙලා අවශ්‍ය වෙනවා. So when you are After you are completing this calculation up to the variances, can you please tell me? Right. Diane said he's finished. Others, what about others? Shall I proceed with the other things? Is it okay to proceed? Or do you want more time? I think the calculation you have to do it by substituting the values to the equation now. So that can be done at home, right? So please, write those answers, right? Then after we can calculate, we can draw the activity on arrow, right? In here also, please remember that I am drawing a box, but you have to draw a circle when you are using an activity on arrow approach, right? So මම දැන් මේ values ටික ඔයගොල්ලෝ ලියා ගන්න. මේ values ටික ලියලා ඔයගොල්ලන්ට මේ substitute කරලා answer එක ගන්න විතරයිනේ තියෙන්නේ. මේ total expect weighted average time standard deviation variance ඒක ඔයගොල්ලන්ට කරගන්න පුළුවන්. දැන් අපි බලමු activity on arrow approach එකෙන් කොහොමද මේ network එක අඳින්නේ කියලා. හරිද? Is that okay to proceed? I am asking from you. Okay. එක්කෙනා ඉතින් reply කරන්න යනවා. Dulinit also said okay. Right. So I will now go to draw the activity on arrow approach using. For the activity A, there is no any predecessors. Therefore, I can start by drawing a box. But instead of drawing a box, you are required to draw what? You are required to draw a circle as we are using an activity on arrow approach, right? Please remember that, right? Then after you have to take an arrow here for the activity A. For the activity A, you have to draw an arrow. And for the activity A, the time which is taken is 4. 4, right? So we are now done with the activity A. And for the activity B is also, there is no any predecessors. Therefore, you can start, right? For the activity B as well. You can start for the activity B as well. For the activity B also, what is the time? What is the time it is required for the activity B? The expected time is, weighted average expected time is 3. Right, very good. So it is 3, it should be 3. And please do not cross this line, right? B, it is 3. And B is also completed. And C, for the C also, there is no any predecessors, so you can draw. For the C also, there is no any predecessors. For the C also, there is no any predecessors, and the value for the weighted average value is 5. Right. So we are completed up to C. And for the D activity, you can see both the A and B are the predecessors. Both A and B are the predecessors, right? So as both A and B are the predecessors, you have to draw the separate circle for the A as well as for the B. For A and for the B, I will draw the separate lines, right? After completing A and B, after completing A and B, you can start the activity D, right? That means you have to draw a dummy variable here. You have to draw a dummy variable here. So in here, I am drawing a dummy variable. And the dummy variable, how you are going to indicate? You have to indicate that using a dotted line, right? So can you see this is a dotted line? So after completing both A and B, you can start to do the activity D. After completing A and B, you can start to do the activity D, right? So the activity D, now you can start. It is better to get the B activity here, right? So otherwise the whole thing will get lost. C5 and B3. හරිද මම මෙතන මේ BC එක පොඩක් change කරා නැත්තම් පොඩක් මේ අමාරු වෙනවා network එක අඳිනකොට හරිද මම මෙතන පොඩ්ඩක් A කියන එක මැදින් අරගෙන B සහ C දෙපැත්තට දැම්මා. හරිද? එතකොට මේකෙදි C එකට කීයද 5යි, A එකට 4යි, B එකට 3යි. Right? For the D activity you have to complete A and B both. So therefore I will take a dummy variable here. After completing A and B both activity, you can start to do the what? You can start to do the D activity, right? This is for the D activity. This is for the D activity. And the value is what? The value is 10. This is for the D activity. The value is 10. Right? So we have now completed up to the D activity. And for the E activity, A, after completing A activity, you can start to do the E activity. After completing A activity means this. Completion of A activity is this. The completion of A activity is here. So after completing A activity, you can start to do the E activity. And for the E activity, the value is, the duration is 7. So did you get what is done up to this point? Do you have any question up to this point? Hello, can you hear me? Right, clear. So for the E activity, we have now completed. And you can see for the F activity, A and C, A as well as C, both the activities need to be completed. A as well as C means again you have to draw a what? You have to draw a dummy activity. Right? You have to draw the dummy activity. You have to draw the dummy activity in here. After completing A and C, after completing A as well as C, you can start the F activity. After completing A and C, you can start the F activity. It is F activity. The average time taken for the F activity is 12. Right? Right. So I have completed up to this. For the G activity, you have to complete F activity. To start G activity, you have to complete F activity. So after completing F activity, you can start to do the G activity. You can do the G activity. For the G activity, the time is 3. right? For the G activity, the time is 3. For the H activity, also for the H activity, you have to complete the F activity. G can be started, and after completing F activity, you can start to do the H activity as well. So the H activity can also be started from here. For the H activity, what is the average time? Average time is 60. Right. So up to this point, we have completed. For the I activity, for to start the I activity, you have to complete both G and H. Right. After completing both G and H, you can start to do the what? Can start to do the H activity. After completing G and H, you can start to do the I activity. So therefore, you have to again draw a dummy activity here. You have to draw a dummy activity here, G and H completing. Then after you can start I activity. You can start I activity. I activity is carrying the value of 9. Then after for start the J activity, E and I activity need to be completed. So E activity is here and E and I, both the activities need to be completed. E as well as I. Right? E activity as well as the I activity. E activity as well as the I activity need to be completed to start the J activity. Are you all doing with me? Huh? E and I activity are the predecessors. After completing E and I, you can start to do the J activity. For the J activity, the average time is 2, right? Right. So J is also completed here now. And for the K activity, E, I, and D. E, I as well as D activity. E, I as well as D activity need to be completed, right? For the D activity also need to be completed. E and I is here, and for the D activity also need to be completed. E and I as well as D activity need to be complete. That means you have to again draw a dummy activity, right? So again drawing the dummy activity here. E completed, I completed, and D. So that is the point, right? After completing EID, you can start to do the K activity, and the K activity value is 5. Average time is 5. So G, J, K, G, J, K. G activity is here, the completion of G activity, and J, K need to be completed, right? G here, G here, K also here. K also need to be completed. what? G, J, K. So the G completion is here. Therefore, you have to again draw a dummy activity. Again, draw a dummy activity to get the G, J, and K. Right? And merge these two. After completing, after predecessors are G, J, K. G, J, K for the L activity. So you have to draw L activity. For the L activity, what is the average time that they are taking? For the L activity, average time is 6. And you can now complete the project network. Right? So that is the project network that you have to draw. So do you have any question regarding drawing this project network? Have you all finished with me drawing the project network? Or are you still working on this? Huh? Only one said Diane Indrajit is was only telling that he is finished. What about others? Right, finished. So we have now drawn the activity project network, right? Then after you can fill the early start and late finish time. So shall we quickly do this? Please help me to complete this, right? So it should be started with 0. For that 0, you have to add 5. And you can see there is a slack time is coming here also, right? So for the 0 for this, it is only 3. And again, there is another arrow coming, right? But the dummy arrows are carrying the duration of 0. So if 0 plus 3, 3 here, and 0 plus 4, it is 4 here. So for the 4, again 0 means 3 or 4. What is the highest value you have to get? It means this should be 4. Did you get how to get the 4 here? Huh? මෙතනදී 4 ආවේ කොහොමද කියලා ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තේරුණාද? Right. So 0 plus 4, this is 4. There is only one arrow here. And for this node, you can see there are 2 arrows are coming. For the 0 plus 3, it is 3. But there is another arrow coming. For this arrow is a dummy arrow. That arrow is carried the duration of 0. That means 4 plus 0, it is 4. Among 3 and 4, the highest value is 4. And for this, 4 again 0, it is 4. But 0 plus 5 means 5. The highest value is 5. For the 5, you have to add 12. It is 17 here. Right? For that 17, you can add 3. So that is 20 here. And for the 17, you have to add 16. For this 20, again come to this point, it is 20. And for the 17, you have to add 16, it is 33. Among 33 and 20, what is the highest value? So in here, 17 plus 3, 20. And 17 plus 16, it is 33. right? So among 20 and 33, highest value is 33. And here for the 4, you have to add 7. It is 11. And for the 33, adding 9 means it should be 42. 2 arrows are coming. The highest value is 42. And for that 42, you are adding a dummy of 0. It is 0. And for the 4, you are adding 10. It is 40. Therefore, this should also be the highest value you have to get. It is 42. Right. And for this this node, you can see there are 3 arrows. For the 42 plus 5, it is 47. And the next arrow is 42 plus 2 means 44. And 20 plus 0 means 20. So among 47, 44, 40, 20, the highest value is 27. Sorry, 47, right? The highest value is 47. And again, this 47 need to be added to the 6, that is 53. So we are now done with the forward pass calculation. And now we are going to do the backward pass calculation. This 53, you have to put it as the late finish time. From the 53, you have to deduct 6, that is 47. And from that 47, you have to deduct 5, it is 42. And from the 47, you have to deduct 2, it is 40. What? 45. 45 here. Wrong. Is that 45 right here? මේ 45 එක මෙතෙන්ට දාපු එක හරියද? Only one is no. The answer is no, right? So in this node, you can see there are 2 arrows. No, if I deduct 47 minus 2, it is 45. And you can see there is another arrow. The dummy arrow is also coming. So from 42, you have to deduct 0. It's 42. So in a backward pass calculation, you have to take the minimum value. So among 45 and 42, the minimum value is 42. Right. Only 2 students are within the class. So those 2 are well done. Only 3, right. So from here onwards, 47 minus 0, it should be 47, but there are another arrow coming, right? 42 minus 9. From 42 minus 9, what is the value? 42 minus 9. 33, right? In here, 33. Right, in here only 33. Only 1 arrow coming. From 33 minus 0, 33. 47 minus 0, 47. As we are doing a backward pass calculation, you have to take the minimum value here. It is 33 here. Right. So from 33 minus 3, 30. And 33 minus 16. What is the value? 33 minus 16. It is 17. 30 or 17, the minimum value is 17. You have to take the 17 here. So we are completed up to this point. From 17, you have to minus 12. It is 5. And there is another arrow coming. 42 minus 7. What is the value? 42 minus 7. It is 35. So in here, you are getting 3 values. 17 minus 12 means 5. 1 arrow. 42 minus 7 means 35. The second arrow, right? Wrong row. 42 minus 10. It is, what is the value here? 32. 42 minus 10. Only 1 arrow here. 32. From that 32, you have to deduct 0, right? In here, you have to choose 32 or 47 minus 2. 7 minus 42 minus 7, it is 35. 35 or 32 here. Puta, what is the value here? 32. The minimum value is 32, right? So it should be 32 here. And from that 32 in here, you can see from 17 minus 12 means 5. That is okay. And from this 32, you have to again deduct 0. It is 32 here. So among these two, you have to choose the lowest value. It is 5. Right. From that 5, you have to deduct 5 here. It means 0. From this 32, deduct 4 means it is 20. How much? 32. 32 minus 3 means 29 here. And 32 minus 4 means 28. So among these three, you have to take the minimum. It is 0, right? So have you all finished this up to now? Please respond. Right, finish. Madam A5. මොකද පුතේ A5 කියන්නේ? මට මේ යාගේ නම නැහැනේ. Madam A5 කියලා කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? පුතේ ඉක්මනට කියන්නකො මොකද්ද? මට පැහැදිලි නෑ ඔයා chat එකෙන් යවපු එක. chat එකෙන් මේ වන්න නැතුව මේ mic එක on කරලා කතා කරන්න. So the time that I am asking you to get is also coming closer. මොකද්ද ඔයා chat එකේ ඔය madam A5 කියලා කිව්වේ? I am asking from you. The name is not mentioned. පුතේ 55යි 65 MF එක මම ඔයාගෙන් අහන්නේ. 5 less than 32. මෙතනද ඔයා කියන්නේ? පුතේ සිංහලෙන් කතා කරන්න mic එක on කරලා.
Yes, madam.
මෙතනද මේ 32 එක ගැනද අහන්නේ?
Yes, madam.
මෙතන දැන් 42 වලින් 7 අඩු වුණාම 32. මෙතන දැන් පුතේ තියෙනවා මෙතන දැන් 42 වලින් 10ක් අඩු වුණාම 32. හරිද? 32 වලින් මේ dummy activity එකක් හින්දා මෙතන 0. 32 වලින් 0 ගියාම 32. එතකොට 32 එකක් තියෙනවා. 42 එකෙන් 7. 42 එකෙන් 7 අඩු කරාම කීයද එන්නේ? 42 එකෙන් 7 අඩු කරාම 35. මෙතනින් එන්නේ 35. මෙතනින් එන්නේ 32. එතකොට 35 එකෙනුයි 32 එකෙනුයි අඩුම එක 32 නේ. තේරුණාද 32 එතෙන්ට ආපු හැටි? පුතේ තේරුණාද 32 මෙතෙන්ට ආවේ කොහොමද කියලා?
Madam, මේ උඩටත් dummy activity එකක් තියෙනවානේ.
ඔව් ඊට පස්සේ දැන් මේ 32 එකට ආවා. හරිද? ඊට පස්සේ මෙතන dummy එකක් තියෙන. ඒකත් ගන්න ඕනද කියලා අහන්නේ නේ. හරි හරි. ඔයා හරි පුතේ. හරි. මෙතනට 5 වෙන්න ඕනේ. මෙතන තව arrow එකක් තියෙනවනේ මට ඒක මිස් වෙලානේ. එතකොට මෙතන 42 එකෙන් 7 ගියාම 35. 42 එකෙන් 10 ගියාම 32. ඊට පස්සේ මෙතන මේ 17 එකෙන් 12 ගියාම 5. ඒ 5 එකෙන් මෙතන ආයේ arrow එකක් තියෙන හින්දා dummy එකත් අයින් වුණාම මෙතන 5 වෙන්න ඕනේ. right. මේ වාගේ නම නැහැ. ඔයා හොඳට මේක බලාගෙන ඉඳලා තියෙනවා. I was mistaken as well. So thank you very much. Your name is not mentioned. I can call it as 5565. So you are very good and thank you very much again. So you have to make it as 5, right? So from 5 minus 5, it should be 0. And from 5, deducting 4 means it should be 1. It should be 1, 0, 1. And again, 32 minus 3 means it should be 29, right? So among these three values, you have to get the lowest value. The lowest value is what? The lowest value is 0. So please make sure that you have corrected this value as 5, right? මේ මෙතන 5 කියලා හදාගන්න. මටත් ඒක මේ මිස් වුණා. So thank you very much පුතා. Right. So then after you have to get, you can just put the, so the right hand side of this circle, all are indicating early start time, right? So the early start time for the A activity is what? 0. So can you tell me the early start time quickly? 0. For the B activity, what? Again, for the B activity, early start time is 0. For the C activity, early start time is again 0. For the D activity, early start time is what? For the D activity, early start time is here. It is 4. For the E activity, early start time is 4. For the G activity, early start time is 1. 7. For the F activity. For the F activity, early start time is 5. For the G activity, early start time is 17. For the H activity, early start time is again 17. For the I activity is where? I activity, early start time is 33. For the G activity, early start time is 42. For the K activity, early start time is again 42. And for the L activity, early start time is 47. Right? So did you all complete this early start time? Early start time එක ගත්ත විදිය තේරුණාද? So you have to see where is the arrow, and from that arrow you have to take the left hand side of this circle, right? Yes. Right after calculating early start time, you can calculate the early finish time. For that you have to add, for the early start time you have to add the weighted average time. That means this value, right? So for the early start time, I am adding the weighted average time duration, and I will drag and drop the values, right? For the late finish times are indicating from the left hand side of your circle, right? What is the late finish time for the A activity? A activity is here, late finish time is 5. Late finish time for the A activity is 5. For the B activity, late finish time is 32, right? For the C activity, late finish time is 5. For the D activity, late finish time is 42. For the E activity, late finish time is again 42. For the F activity, where is the F activity? For the F activity, late finish time is 17. For the G activity, late finish time is 33. For the H activity, late finish time is again 33. For the I activity, late finish time is 42. For the J activity, late finish time, J is here, J late finish time is 47. For the K activity, for the K activity, late finish time is 47. Last one is for the L activity, late finish time is 53. So have you complete this late finish time? So you have to see where is the arrow, and from that arrow, the right hand side of the circle is carrying out the late finish time. So then after you have to calculate the late start time. So after getting the late finish time, you have to deduct the weighted average time, and you can get the late start time, right? From this, you have to deduct the weighted average time duration. I will drag and drop, right? So these are the values that you are getting for the early start, early finish, late start, and late finish, right? Then after you can calculate the slack. Slack means the difference between late start as well as the early start. So the difference between late start and early start, that means from the late start, you have to deduct the early start, right? Uh, it is indicating it as days, no? From one you are deducting 0, means what is the value slack? 1 minus 0 means slack is 1, right? Right. So from here also you have to take the late start minus early start 29. So likewise you can calculate the slack as well, right? So we have now calculate this part. So up to this point you are clear now, right? Right. So I think you can calculate the standard deviation of the project. After identifying, we did not identify the critical path, right? So the critical path is C is a critical path. So I will going to highlight that thing. And what is the next one? F is also a critical path. And H is also a critical path. H is also a critical path. Next one is, then I is also a critical path. And then this dummy is also become a critical path here. Then this SAM, this, right? This is the critical path. This is the critical path. The critical path is C, F, H, I, K, and L, right? After identifying the critical path, after getting the critical path activity variances and get the square root, you can find out the standard deviation of the project. So you can calculate this, right? And calculate the probability of the project if the total schedule time is 50 and 56. And if the probability of completing is 99%, what is the schedule time? So those calculation we have done for the example number 3. So I think the calculation for this tree you can do by yourself, right? So I have taken more than 10 minutes also. I have requested you to get a half an hour and you have stayed with me. So thank you very much. So can quickly tell me, do you have any questions regarding the calculation from 3 to 5? Can you do it by yourself as a homework? Please respond quickly, as I am taking more time from you. So one said we can, madam, right? So others, okay, right, okay. So I think all of you can do this, right? And I will upload, sorry, I will upload this Excel sheet after calculating the standard deviation and calculation of probability. This calculation, after doing those calculation, I will upload this complete Excel sheet to the LMS as well. So thank you very much by giving you more time to finish off this lesson. And I hope do you all of you are clear about this lesson, and please make sure to practice those things, because most probably you will get an examination question by using these example, right? So thank you very much again, and have a nice day.